Hey there, it's your girl Patrice Stokes, radio and podcast host, therapist, poet, photographer, and published author. Yep, that's me. I'm excited to welcome you to the all-new Therapy Thursdays with Therapy on the Mic. Brought to you by Inspired on Purpose. Mission is to inspire people to see themselves through a different lens, to discover healing and their God-given purpose using therapy and photography. Each week, we are here to guide you through the journey of developing gratitude, growth, and healing, no matter what season of life you're in. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay tuned for this week's special guest. Together, let's get ready to be inspired on purpose. Hey y'all, what's up? I hope that you all are well. Welcome to another episode of Therapy on the Mic. We are doing a series in honor of Black History Month, and this is called Healing Black Beautiful Minds. And I have my special guest, Dr. Karlin J. Tichenor. How are you?
I'm doing well. Well. How you doing?
Man, I'm feeling black.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a feeling. Yes, it is.
It is a feeling.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I feel real black.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm feeling real black. And so I feel so much black that today I'm wearing my shirt to represent Black History Month. And one of the things that I love about the shirt, and I'm kind of like reading like this way, but it feels weird. So I'm just going to read a few at least so I can actually read. Dream like Martin. Read like Harriet. Fight like Malcolm. Think like Garvey. And
right, like mine.
yes. Oh, and it's so funny because yesterday somebody asked the question, who is your greatest Black history figure, and what inspires you the most about them? And I definitely said Maya Angelou, because everything that I think about that I've experienced in my life, and especially in the last 2 years, particularly the poem "And Still I Rise."
Yeah.
That truly has been the fuel for me. And so that's something that I think about. And so today, y'all, we are going to have this conversation about particularly not only what it means to heal Black beautiful minds, but as we think about Black History Month, and we're definitely going to do a couple of shout outs too. So as you all join the live, and I see somebody's on there. Oh, cool. Right on. And so you see, we're in the studio today, y'all. Black is a feeling. Yes, it is. It is a feeling. And so as we talk today, we're switching things up a little bit because we are actually live in the podcast studio. So I'm really excited about that. But first and foremost, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of our sponsors who make it possible for us to do the work that we do here with Therapy on the Mic, where healing meets purpose, and where we have healing conversations to develop gratitude, growth, and healing. So if this is your first time on Therapy on the Mic, definitely make sure to chat with us. Put your questions in the chat box so that way we can answer them. We will have some time toward the end for you to actually answer some questions. And then also, too, I wanted to make sure that you all, again, remember to subscribe. I have to continue to remind myself to do that, to tell people, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find us on Inspired on Purpose, or if you listen to this now, share this with a friend, or if you listen to it later, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can stay updated on all the awesome content that will be coming down the pipeline. And so, yes, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Want to give a shout out to Speak On It Media, give a shout out to Herbal Intellect, to the Idle Jordan Museum. Also want to give a shout out to Leo's Alkaline Water, which my water was over here, but it's over there, but I drink it all the time. And so shout out to my producer. Thank you. I drink Leo's Alkaline Water. It is law, literally. It keeps me hydrated, and that is one of the things that I'm so thankful for during this time of year. And then also, I want to give a shout out to Spoken Word Elevated. And speaking of which, didn't we just have that conversation when the last time we talked?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and you came to Spoken Word Elevated.
That was great.
Yeah, what did you like about it?
So, First of all, there's a lot of talent in the room. I always have loved spoken word, but to see it in that kind of space, it was a museum, but also it was on Saturday morning. Not the vibe I've ever had before.
Yeah.
But it still felt like a little small, quaint nightclub at the time.
Because it was daytime.
Yeah. And people were excellent, though. You had a nice range of folks that had just started in the space and people who have obviously been doing it for a long time. So I brought, I think 6 people with me.
Yeah, you
and
came
I was
deep.
watching them to see how they were vibing with it. And all I just wanted to see was just some emotion. And I saw plenty.
You did?
So I knew it was hitting everybody.
I felt like they really liked it. What did they think about it?
All of them loved it.
Yeah.
Waiting on you to do it again.
We gonna do it. We were just having this conversation. So, for those of y'all that don't know, so Spoken Word Elevated, which is both me and Lamont's baby, we created it out of our own businesses with Inspired on Purpose and Speak on It Media. And so what we did was we wanted to focus on elevating our culture in therapy, because with me being a therapist, him being in the media, and then also just music, we thought we wanted to fuse that together to create safe spaces for people to be seen, heard, and valued, and being able to talk about topics on mental health and wellness in a space that's creative. And so, that over the years, this is year 5 that we've been doing it. And so we went from doing it every month for the last 3 years to now doing it quarterly, because we were starting to get burnt out.
I'm sure. Well, it was powerful.
Thank you.
It was powerful.
Thank you. So we are going to do another one. What we were talking about, and this is something that we've actually been asked about probably in the last half of the year. So I told you a little bit about the program that we do called Tichenor Conversation. Yeah. So for those of y'all that don't know, or for those of you that have been, think of Tichenor Conversations like spoken word elevated meeting conversations, where you get the poetry, you get the vibe of the music, you still get vendors, you get food, but you get conversations. And I think that's one of the things that I really liked about this, because I feel like you do get some conversations at Spoken Word Elevated, but you really are there to consume art.
Right.
And so I think you find those spaces to have conversations, but this is really built to bring community together, to have healing conversations, and then really for people to leave feeling like they have some action steps to do something positive to make a change in the community. And food, that breaks down barriers.
It does.
So and really it came from Quiche. So shout out to my pastor's wife, Lavette Costin, who one day I brought some quiche to church and she had some and she's like, "This is good." And then she was like, "You thinking about making some more?" And then I told her, I said, I've always loved doing quiche. My mom taught me how to make it super easy. But anytime I've ever made it, and I'm always having really quality conversations. And so she was like, "You should do something with that." And I was like, "What? Tichenor Conversations, ha ha ha." And she was like, "I think you got something." And I was like, "Oh snap."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're going to do in March.
Yeah.
So y'all be on the lookout. If that's what you want, let us know. I know March is Women's History Month. So there's so many things that I feel like that are happening, that are coming. And then in April, we're going to Jamaica. So both me and Lamont, we were given the opportunity to, I'll be co-emceeing a event called the Christian Diaspora, or the African Diaspora Christian Conference in Jamaica. And it is in Montego Bay. So if you're interested, make sure to check out my website, check out our platforms, and I'll also post it later in this video. But it's an opportunity for people to learn more about not only how to use your faith in different fields of interest or your career fields, but really just how to be a light in all of these different industries, whether if it's music, whether if it's business, whether if it's healthcare, all these different spaces, so that we could be a light to people. And so that's what I'm really excited about. I'll be co-emceeing it with another Jamaican. I was about to say former Jamaican. No, he's always Jamaican. Former Jamaican. Sorry, Mark. Sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. Look, I've been going this week. Yesterday I did a Black History Month keynote, an international Black History Month keynote. It was virtual and literally with people from all over the world, from Egypt, Dubai, Singapore, etc. And my mind is still blown but it is also tired.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Time for a nap.
Yes. Oh, that sounds great. But nevertheless, not yet, because I got some questions for you, and I already know folks got some questions for you tonight. But as we're talking about that, I do want to introduce you all to who Dr. Karlin James Tichenor, PhD.
I don't hear the middle of this name a lot.
Oh, you don't?
But go ahead.
But don't. I told you. I was like,
it's my granddaddy.
Sorry. Not. Jay, sorry. Y'all hear that part. We'll exit out later. We'll edit that out.
Okay.
But so Karlin is who I call him, but for some, they may call him Dr. Tichenor. He is a social impact strategist, a licensed therapist, educator, entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Karlin J and Associates, and co-founder and vice president of the Family Links LLC. He's deeply committed to equity, social, emotional health, and leadership, and generational impact. So, Karlin, Dr. Tichenor, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me all the things that you do first and foremost. Let's get into that.
Yeah. I hate this part, by the way, because I'm like, just check the website. I don't know. Only because one of my favorite scriptures is do nothing out of selfish ambition. With humility, value others above yourself. So I always feel a little strange to talk about it. Yeah. And I was thinking about this. One of my best friends has he has an organization, but what they talk about in terms of their hashtag is doing the work, because a lot of people talk about the work. Yes. And so I was thinking the other day, like, what would my hashtag be if I put it on everything? And it would be centering the work. You know, if you think about like you post things, I'll get to the bio in a minute, but I'm making a point. You post things, but typically people really center self. Yeah. And then they talk about the work around themselves versus centering the work and then talking about themselves ancillarily. Yeah. And I kind of want to get closer to that so that the work is what's most important. So like yesterday, I was blessed to also do a keynote. And then when I posted about the people in the audience and the organization that's doing the work, and I happen to be able to help a little bit, right? Okay. Because I want to center the work. Yeah. So let me center the work in the answer to your question. So some of the work that we're doing is really around strengthening families, because we believe that if we improve families, we improve neighborhoods, we improve communities. Other work is around building pipelines for future Black and Brown therapists, because there's not enough in the space. So we want to build a pipeline, but we also want to work on retention, because burnout is true in the mental health space. And we just don't typically enter it enough. And so when we get there, we burn out a lot because we're trying to essentially carry all the burdens of every pain that we've ever seen in our lives and others. Yep. Some other work is I'm a professor at Butler, building new clinicians. And also I teach a leadership class for undergrads, which has really been inspiring for me, really fun. And then other work is my consulting firm, where we do essentially project development, project management. And then we also work with educators who need mental health support. So my best friend, Curtis Lewis, has a nonprofit called Boldly Moving Education Ahead, and they do fellowships for principals and teachers. And part of the fellowship experience is to receive counseling from a therapist, so that they don't burn out of the field. Nice. So it's almost like service for a service. Yes. So we do that in Chicago and New York right now. So wow, it's really cool, really cool. So I get to go to Chicago, to New York once a month, and do some conversations with educators, and then do that in Chicago as well. And then we do virtual sessions with them as a virtual coach, essentially. So yeah, just a few things. And the last thing, the work, because people need work. Yes. Is the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative is local to our city here, and it's really around improving quality of life for Black people. It's a foundation that we created about 5 years ago. Okay. And the sole purpose is to essentially address social determinants of health for Black people in the city. So again, that's the work, and we just are blessed to be some part of it, because our core mission, really life mission, is improving quality of life of others and thereby our own. So this list of things allows us to hopefully get close to that. Okay. Now, there's multiple questions I want to ask you right now, but the one that is at the top of my head, how do you have the time to do all of this? Yeah, I think I'm learning how to be smart about being efficient, but I think what I do is in the last year I've been really thoughtful around building people around me who can also help and asking for help in the spaces. But then also like obviously virtual allows you to be a bit more efficient than having to travel to and from.
Yeah.
And so that has allowed more time in the day. But I would say like the simplest answer is God sustain. I believe that everything that I've been asked to do, He's the leader of that, and so He somehow creates capacity in me.
Wow.
And I still get the necessary rest, and I think I'm a good husband and a good father. I take a quiz. Yeah, I give them a quiz every night and say, "How did I do?"
On the scale of 0 to 10.
I don't really do that, but if I did, I think they would say you're doing okay.
Yeah, what would you give yourself on a scale of 10?
I think I'm a 7.
You 7?
Yeah, they wouldn't say 7, but I always feel like I'm a 7 because there's always room. Always room. Like I need to date my daughter more often. I date my wife pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't know the last time I took my daughter to dinner. Just us. Getting older.
How old is she?
She's 13, but she's a young.
preteen.
So I just need to take her out on a date. We go to family date, but I believe in like relationships are individual, right?
Yeah.
So there's a family relationship, there's a husband and wife relationship, there's a mother and daughter relationship, and there's a father and daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And I've been given all the time to those other ones, but not daddy daughter only.
Yeah.
In a public space. Now I'm just putting it on my schedule in my head. Next week.
Okay. Well, so we're your accountability. So
Yeah,
you said it
yeah.
here. If you need to like roll back the tape, you could.
I'll listen to it.
But I know that so one of the things that I also wanted to ask. Okay, so you said you're married, you have a daughter. How long you been married?
So we are at 13 years now.
13 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to say there was, and it's stuck with me ever since. There was a conversation that we had. Was it last year or the year before that when you came on the show?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
And it almost brought me to tears, actually. And you said there's some things, we were talking about men's mental health, and you were saying there are some things that a woman was not meant to carry for her man. Another man was, like a brother, right? And so in that sense where you were saying like the importance of vulnerability, especially when we're talking about in the Black community, how important that is when we're in a society, don't get me on my soapbox, when we're in a society where it's very much like you see me, what are the thoughts that cross your mind? Not necessarily what are the possibilities, what are the positive contributions that you bring to the table, but like how safe are you?
Yeah.
Right? And when you walk into spaces and they don't even know that you got a PhD, and they don't know that you're married or that you have a daughter, right? And then you're trying to be all those things to all these people, but people are already sizing you up before they even know your story. And that's one of the things that I feel is a question yesterday that I was asked when I did the keynote about how can we bring communities together, especially when you think about Black history, like how can we bring communities together and also like share that with the next generation. And I was just talking about the importance of telling people stories because it humanizes people. So how important does that factor to you in not just the work you do, but even as people are getting to know who you are?
The telling people stories part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so connected to what we talked about last time, that idea of vulnerability, I think increasingly becomes true as it relates to storytelling. And if we don't really know, like, well, first of all, if we don't process and reflect on our own stories and how our stories were cultivated, how it's influenced, how it was predetermined in some cases, and then how we have actual choice to make to frame the story, I think we don't get a great opportunity to really have the right, proper perspective. And so for me, like, I've been working on understanding myself better so that if a story about me comes out that's inconsistent with who I am, I get to reframe it. But being more intentionally about like how I show up authentically so the story is clear to begin with.
Yeah.
Because what I worry about, right, is like if I don't show up fully myself, I am not the one who gets to dictate how the story unfolds, but ultimately, like, I'm just learning how to be more myself. And that story, I think, gives purpose and meaning to other people when they can see authenticity. And it's not always easy to be authentic because we worry about like judgment, negative perceptions, how people respond to us, and even the world and how it might make decisions about who we are without our consent. But I find that the more we can just say that this is my story and this is how I'm telling it,
yeah,
the more other people will be empowered to do the same.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I think one of the things that even as you're saying that, man, it was literally what you just said. I'm like, my brain is all over the place, but I want to go back to that thought. It was something along the lines of like basically you have the power to tell your narrative before someone else dictates it. But that's not how you said it.
But you said it really well, though. That's exactly right. We empower others to also do the same.
Yeah.
But we do have to influence the way our story is told.
Yeah.
And that comes from, I believe, vulnerability and authenticity. Whatever you gather from that.
Yeah. It's like I can go back and roll the beautiful footage.
Beam footage.
Yeah, beam footage. But yeah, so. But I just, I love that because, especially as I think about the importance of Black History Month, and even when I was getting ready for shout out to my cousin. She has been such a beautiful soul in this process, and just the whole team. I definitely want to shout. I'll just go ahead. I'll just shout them out. So shout out to Methanex Corporation. They are a global corporation that I had the blessing and the opportunity to work with. And so I thank you, and particularly to the organization within it, which is Onyx, which focuses on Black recruitment as well as staff. And giving safe spaces. And I really love what you all are doing. I love not only what you all are doing, but what you're standing for. So what I learned about them, which I thought was so beautiful, is that so here in the United States, it's called DEI, right? So diversity, equity, inclusion. They call it EDI, which starts with equity, diversity, inclusion. And I asked why, and they said they believe that the importance of providing equity in order for them to have diversity, not the other way around. Mm. And therefore you can have inclusion. Mm-hmm. So then when I started thinking about, and how, this is their first year celebrating Black History Month, as a corporation, they've been around for a really long time, but they wanted to be more intentional about providing safe spaces, for people of color, especially those of African descent. And so this was a way to kind of kickstart the whole celebration of being more intentional and doing more for their Black staff and recruitment. And one of the things that I really appreciated about it was just that they asked really great questions. And I think sometimes that's what we have to think about when we're talking to one another from different sides of the fence, whether if it's ethnically, culturally, socioeconomically, especially in the United States where it feels like things are very divisive right now. The State of the Union.
You ever just not watch something?
I've never really watched State of the Union, but and it's crazy. Shout out to my mom because I don't really know what I was watching.
You chose to allow yourself to see it.
My mom wanted to watch it, and she expressed to me why. Because I'm not gonna say all the things that she said, but
I wasn't there, but I'm laughing because I can only imagine.
But in that sense, it's like you have to know sometimes what the enemy is doing so that you know how to respond.
That's interesting.
And also, I think too, it is important because no matter how crazy, people are, you do need to know what's happening to some degree, so that way you have a plan of action. Sure. And I think even when I think about Black History Month and all the people that I learned about all over the world, and I'm not just talking about African Americans, but people literally from different parts of the globe and their contributions to the world. Like, I'm going to name some folks here in a second, but I found, number one, I felt cheated. When I found out, I was like, we never talked about this in school. Like, I love Dr. King. I love Maul. But that's all we know about. And it's even worse when I think about this generation, because all the energy and effort that they're doing right now to literally take out any bit of history, truthful history about us right now, it's devastating. Like, I literally saw a post or a video, and I don't know what state it was in, but they were erecting back this artwork of a plantation owner. Mm. And I'm like, who also, when you think about these wars and stuff, like when you lost, like that doesn't even make sense. If you lose a war, if you lose something, why would you celebrate that? Mm. And even knowing that why you lost it, you should have, right? Because you're talking about like enslaving people, like human beings. right? And you lost the war. Why would we bring attention to that and celebrate that as a country, right? Not even just, whatever side of the fence you're on, but just why would we celebrate that?
Mm-hmm. I heard someone say once, though, that the Southern history books say it was the Northern invasion. It wasn't a civil war, it was a Northern invasion. And so, I mean, so it depends on, who gets to own the narrative, right?
Yes.
Because if I'm raised in the South,
oh God,
it's laughable.
I love.
That's what I'm saying.
It's from the South.
The same history, told from a different vantage point. Yeah. So quick aside, because it's connected to what your mom said, which is interesting, right? Like, we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. One time I had a boss do something to me that it made me call some mentors and say, "Can y'all believe this happened?" And one of the mentors said, "You never have to see it again." And at the point that I gather from that is, how many times do we have to see a thing to know it's already true? Right? So, at some point, and this is actually a mental health conversation, because at some point you're just re-triggering and re-traumatizing, and you're already aware.
Yeah, so you're
how much
more angry.
You are. And what could you do with that 20 minutes that could counterbalance what's already in you? And that's all I'm saying. It's do I need to know this too? Or do I already know it and I can do something else right now? Like take my daughter on a date or whatever. You know, something
more valuable.
Yeah. All of the stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because did you get further insight?
No,
you got more.
I got understanding about some people's faces and understanding that there's some folks in there who were not for this person. Sure. And they were just wanting it to be known.
Okay.
And you could definitely see what side people were on, because every 5 seconds it felt like people were standing up, clapping, and the other side was like, "I wish you would."
Man.
And then literally somebody had, which now this brings for great attention. I'm not going to talk about it too long, but the fact that somebody had on a pin on their thing and it said "F ICE."
Oh.
And I was like,
everything's political.
Everything is political. Like, even down to when he was talking about the hockey team for 20 minutes, I was like, what does this have to do with the safety of our country? And so I say that because, when we come back, we're going to have a conversation about not only the narratives that we have the power to tell about ourselves, about our communities, about our world, but even how does that play a part in our minds, and how those narratives sometimes could come from things that we were told, growing up that aren't true. And then how we rediscover the true narratives and how does that impact us in our day-to-day now? So, I mean, how y'all feeling? Right? So I know we got a couple of questions here. So, okay. Hey, Scooby. What's up, Scooby? Thanks for watching. I appreciate you for watching. Definitely will give you a shout out. If you got some comedy shows coming up, let us know. I know you do your thing. But we will be back right after these messages. And while we're doing that, one of the things that I want you all to think about is not only what are some questions that you want to ask Karlin or I, but also what is something that you want to celebrate for Black History Month with approximately 2 days left. And if you celebrated Black History Month, what's something that you did? Did you support a Black business? Did you go to a program to celebrate and learn about our history? Did you do something different? Did you learn about a Black history figure that you didn't know about before? Because I've got a list of them, and I'm going to tell y'all some, because I think we're pretty dope. So we'll be back after these messages. You remember that? Mm-hmm. We'll be right back. Is that a cartoon?
I don't remember what it is.
We'll be right back, y'all. Leave me alone.
Big thanks to all our amazing sponsors for making this episode of Therapy on the Mic podcast possible. This includes Karlin J and Associates, LLC, Speak On It Media, Da Speaka Box Podcast, Spoken Word Elevated, Building with Purpose, Mind, Body and Soul, Don't Stop Living Wellness, Leo's Alkaline Water, Be Well Therapeutic Massage Spa, and the Idleyorg Museum. Want to become a sponsor of Inspired on Purpose and Therapy? On the Mic podcast? Are you next? Visit inspiredonpurposeservices.com and click the tab, Become a Sponsor, to support our wellness initiatives and help reach underserved communities and communities of color, and get promoted on our website, podcast, Speak On It radio, and magazine. That's inspiredonpurposeservices.com. Become a sponsor today.
We're back. I could listen to India Reid any day. It's so interesting. Do you know Dr. Corey Reed?
Through you, and you told me to watch the video.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know him personally.
Yeah, because he's at Butler.
Yeah, we just haven't met before.
Oh,
yeah,
well, look at that. Maybe now y'all be able to meet.
I'll know them when I see them.
That's right. Well, he said something that I thought was really interesting, because he said, he pointed out what India Arie says about brown skin in the song. I love your brown skin. I can't tell where yours begin, and I can't tell where mine ends. And he just said, the fact that she has to celebrate brown skin because it's not celebrated, and that we wouldn't understand the importance of knowing our value if we didn't have people to share about it, because so often what we hear about brown skin aren't good things. So when we were talking about our narratives, or even just how that impacts our mental health before the break, tell me, what does Black history mean to you, and why is it significant?
Yeah, I would say it's evolved over time. I think there was a time where I was like, wow, it's amazing that we have a month. Mm-hmm. As I've gotten older, it's like, man, we only have a month.
And
then even now, personally, sometimes I even forget to notice in a way, predominantly because I'm like, in some way I want to resist the fact that there's only a month, and that feels like we have to center this in this way, and then after that, then somehow it's not as important. And so I've been sort of pushing against some of the different organizations that have said let's do something for Black History Month, and I think that's important. But I also think part of the fight is saying it's not just about a month; it's about the people. It's about how we integrate their significance in the day-to-day. And it's also about how we educate ourselves and educate others about it, to your point around the things you continue to learn and others continue to learn. And then the responsibility of the parent in the home to do more instruction.
100%.
Because we've been very frustrated with what schools don't do, but I don't know that schools were ever supposed to. It's good for them too, but to say that's all they are there to teach my kid about its history or his or her history. That is important, but it's not the only place where it should be happening.
No.
And it actually should be supplemental.
But let's think about that though, right? So you said you don't feel like it should be the school's responsibility to teach, let's just say our kids, right? Black and brown children, about our history. But it's more of the parents and those who are caring for them in their home.
Yeah.
But my pushback or question to you is, wouldn't you say that majority of what we have learned, or this generation learns in school, isn't about our history? It is about European history.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So in essence, it's they make it their business to teach about every other history besides our history intentionally. So why wouldn't that be their responsibility? Yeah,
I'm not divorcing the responsibility. What I'm more so is saying that we, I think, in some ways became dependent on the school to do a thing.
Yeah.
And we forgot to build libraries in our own homes. That's what I mean.
100%.
So, the school should be teaching my kids. Yeah.
You should,
but not in kids. Right. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
They should be absolutely talking about the history of all people, including Black people, and they should do it in a comprehensive way. And your kids should be able to hear what they're teaching and say, that's not what I already understand. It shouldn't be my first introduction to the topic.
Yes.
And my parents didn't teach me Black history. And I don't know a lot of kids who can say that their parents did. I met one woman in college who said, my parents had a Black library in my home, and they would make me read it. And I was like...
That was my dad.
See? So it depends, right?
He kept me in the house. I couldn't go outside and play until I could memorize the National Negro Anthem.
I think that's great. And the first person to ever help me accountable was my Black assistant principal, Virgil Madden, who made me memorize all the MLK speeches. That was the beginning of me becoming hyper aware of my Blackness. Not because my parents weren't Black and because they weren't pro-Black. They just were surviving and living.
Yeah.
They weren't thinking I need to educate my 5 children on what it means in our history and how to show up as a Black person. So I'm saying that, in a way, they defaulted to the school, and then that led to some frustration of what the school wasn't doing.
Oh.
And so that's why I said schools need to really be supplemental, not the first introduction.
Because the home is the first line of defense.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely. And then we create kids who are resistant.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, if you're like, oh, well, that's my history, now I have to accept that narrative because I have nothing to counter what I'm hearing.
Oh, you just made me think about something. Okay, so this is a quick derail, but on topic. So, but what is the movie that we watched with Tyler Perry?
Most recent one.
Yeah, what is that?
Like something college with his.
It was Joe.
Yeah, it was a focus on Joe, right?
Yeah.
And the preface basically is that his grandson, is that his grandson?
Yep, grandson.
Yeah, it is grandson. Yeah, that his grandson was in a predominantly white space in college, or in high school. And he was going to college, and he was sitting with two white friends, and basically he was spewing all this stuff about like how he wanted to go to a very white school to college, and he didn't want to go to Morehouse, and he was just basically spewing what the narratives that his friend would say about HBCUs and all these things. And his dad was looking at him like surprised, like, who are you? I didn't raise you to think like that. But at the same time, when you would look at the father and how he would show up in these spaces, it makes sense, right? Because you very much were assimilating to the culture, thinking that assimilation meant success. And in essence, what it did is it also stripped your own child of true identity of blackness, or not even saying blackness, because that's not even really a thing, right? That's a social construct. But the idea is that your identity of like where you come from and the value in your heritage and all that you kind of put that on the back burner just so that you can show up and quote unquote be like everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And I've seen that so much in schools, where I've worked in systems where children come in my office and literally kind of just lay out this frustration that they won't say anywhere else because they know, at the time I was Miss Holmes, and then when I was Miss Stokes, it was like, I know I could tell you this and not be judged, because it didn't feel like they had too many spaces where they can truly be themselves, and not feel like I should apologize for being black.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
It is sad.
To literally walk through school all day long to deal with these microaggressions from teachers, from administrators, even from your peers, and then feel like when you have questions or you are questioned because of your motives about doing something, and you're looked at as the angry black kid, right? That it's like, but yeah, I can do the same thing that you do, but the consequences for me are so different. And then how do you explain from an adult to a child, like, here's how you have to show up. It's not fair, but if you want to survive, this is how you have to show up. So how do you, because you mentor, you do a lot of educational things, how do you have those conversations with young people? And then also, how do you process that in yourself at the same time while you're telling them how to show up?
Yeah, it's not a simple answer. It's really complicated, and I'm still figuring it out. One of the things that I like to talk about, it's a word that people use, it's a research word, it's called acculturation versus assimilation. And I like to use that word in my own brain so that I can translate it to a person. I don't necessarily say that word, but I talk about essentially it's code switching. It's the ability to live in multiple worlds and to choose what parts of you exist in that world. But it's a very difficult thing to do over and over again. But the benefit of acculturation versus assimilation is that you don't have to give up anything. You get to choose through empowerment what you offer to any side. So if I'm a black or brown kid and I'm in a predominantly white space, I get to choose what I give it and what I'll take from it. Versus assimilating, I'll lose most of myself, if not all of myself. And so when I work with young people, I'm just trying to help them understand, like, what is truest identity of self? And then what does it mean to be able to have agency around what it is you give to this space versus what it is that you allow this space to take. And that's in all spaces, because really what we're talking about is setting boundaries around who we are and how the world experiences us, but how we allow the world to treat us in response to this experience of us. And that's not easy to do if you don't have confidence and identity. You will then just sort of like give things away because you don't know the value of the thing. And it could be the most important part of you. And so I like to help them really, truly conceptualize self.
Yeah.
As it is to who you are now, right? Like, obviously, if I'm 16, do I truly know myself? Not fully, right?
You're continually morphing into
but who do you want yourself to be?
Yeah, but that's even more difficult because at the teenage years, regardless of your ethnicity or, cultural background, you're very much in question mode of like, who am I? Who are y'all? What are we doing? Why are we here? Why is this happening? And then at the same time, when narratives are being thrown at you about who you are and you don't even fully know yet, but that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And then trying to express that in a way that doesn't come across like angry, but also like almost like a righteous anger. Like, I know I'm not that person. Stop calling me that, And I find that so often with youth, especially who are trying to navigate the waters of identity and belonging, and then at the same time, was it a week ago? Young man, I think he was 25 years old, committed suicide. He was a football player at Purdue University, shot himself, and he had multiple injuries because of not being able to play, right? And I don't know the full story just from what I read on articles, but it sounded like he was already struggling mentally. Instead of, I don't know who was reaching out, hearsay of like, people had just had conversations with him that day that it happened. But like for someone to be able to say like, hey, something's off, let's talk. Or even being able to be sensitive enough to know, like, yes, you're a football player. Yes, you are these things, but you and your identity, I can see that you're hurting. And so I'm going to put all those things about you to the side, and I want to speak to you in your spirit and your soul so that you can find some healing, because I know the direction that you're going is not a good one.
Yeah.
And being able to have those conversations, regardless if that person who sees it, is of the same ethnicity or not, I think those are the conversations that we need to have more. But I think when sometimes people are afraid, and I feel like right now people are so afraid to have conversations because they're afraid to offend.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what's on the other side of that fear? If you don't offend, someone could die.
Sure.
And it's like, I'm just being straight up.
Yeah.
It's like, I wanted to say something, but I was afraid I was going to offend them. But their life could have been saved.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you hear that or think of that, and just to the point of like mental health, and when we're talking about this topic on healing beautiful Black minds, how important is it to be willing to, sometimes you're not intentionally trying to step on people's toes, but when you know something is off, especially when we're talking about Black men's mental health, and just Black health anyway, mental health, like saying like, hey, something's up.
Yeah.
Can we talk? Like, how do you do that? Or how could you even encourage somebody else to do that when they may be feeling like something's off about this person, but I'm afraid to ask the question?
Yeah, I think about like what true, authentic agape love is.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about like the boundaries of love, I don't know that it is afraid of hurting someone when life or death is at stake. My point is, I don't know that we love each other enough to step past that boundary of fear of harming someone's emotions when we perceive that something worse is happening.
Mm-hmm.
One of my staff told me yesterday that her daughter tried to commit suicide. She wasn't successful, but fortunately she wasn't. But there's going to be some residual pain associated with that. Mm-hmm. And suicide is increasingly more and more common as a choice that people are making. And I was talking to her about like just thinking through, how is she going to recover from this? And what is her plan to think through how to make the daughter feel better, but also herself and her husband, who obviously live in the house. And I really wanted to encourage her to become more courageous about connection, to jump over the line of some boundaries in ways that you're saying, like, I just want to give you love and I want to be deeply connected to you. And if that hurts your feelings, but it saves your life, then I'm willing to do that because I'm noticing something about you. But part of it is like, are we in love with people enough to pay attention? So I think that's what's happening, is that people are feeling lost, people are feeling abandoned, people are feeling isolated while in community because they're not feeling deep love. And that can come from a friend, a family member, or a stranger. And I think strangers need to do a better job of showing love. Deep love to other people, even though they may not have a relational love. It's just, that's why I talked about the agape love. We got to find a way to get back to that.
But I mean, even for you to say the agape love, we can't give love if we don't know who love is. right? If we don't understand who we were created to be, then we can't truly understand what love is, because we were loved first. You know, and I love, John 3:16, and I just had a conversation with someone, and I loved that, someone for me a long time ago said, insert your name where it says whosoever. So for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that when Patrice, whosoever believes in him, would not perish but have eternal life. And understanding that security, that kind of love is what not only helps us to overcome hurdles when we feel like there's no hope, and the only hope there is to end life, but understanding that the eternal life that we've been given, that, when his word says that no one can snatch them out of my hands, and that even life, death, destructions, any of those things. And I can say for myself, especially in the last 2 years, I've had some ups and downs. And in the midst of that, trying to carry other people's burdens on top of my own. But I know for sure that I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am right now if I hadn't experienced that agape love that God first gave me, through Christ. And I think that's what is missing in the world. Sure. But I also realized that from a therapist standpoint, because I remember I think we had this conversation before, but the question was, are you a Christian therapist, or are you a therapist that's a Christian? How would you answer that question?
It's an interesting question. I'm the way Christian. And so in the way therapist, because I don't know that I would say I'm a Christian therapist or a therapist that's a Christian. I would say that I'm a believer in the Holy Spirit, and I'm in the way. Hopefully I emulate that in all aspects, but I don't know what comes first. I just know God is first, and I'm in response to it. Because I think the naming sort of like positions itself around like what matters more. And what's influencing what, and I just want to center God in it all, right? And so part of like my disposition with this work is trying to identify what the gift God has given me, and then how to translate that to my responsibilities and to my purpose in this world. And in this case, it happens to be therapeutic, but it's not the only way that I do that. And so I don't know if I would say I'm a Christian administrator or I'm a administrator who's Christian.
That's a good question. That's a good way to think about
it. That I am.
Do I do that? Like, am I a person that goes to the gym who is a Christian? Yeah. Or I'm a Christian that goes to the gym?
Yeah. Or you just are. And I'd rather just be.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're supposed to be made in his image. Yes. So I want to be so much so that I don't have to designate like who the him is that's showing up. I just am.
Hopefully, so many boxes. But I think that goes back to the narratives, right? Like I think that I heard something goes something like this, that in order for other people to feel comfortable with you in their space, they have to put you in a box. And if you don't fit in that box, then they don't want you to be around, because that in of itself says like, I can't, like I remember a conversation someone had with me at this particular job. And I remember it was a interesting situation. It was a colleague and someone who was higher up. But they had this conversation and they went on to say, because they knew like I did my podcast, they knew that I did Spoken Word Elevated, they knew that I have my business, and they've been to some of the things that I, did, and I invited them out and stuff. And they said to me, wow, you do so much. I mean, how do you do it all? Right. And then so they said something particularly that was a little different after that was almost like, I can't fathom how you do what you do. Is it possible? Almost like a questioning, like, do you really do all of those things? And if you do, how can you do that? Yeah. And so I kind of smiled and I said, thank you. And I then said, I just feel called to the things that I do, and God gives me the ability to do it.
I think I answered your question the same way earlier.
You sure did. Yeah.
Right.
And I think capacity. You just are.
Well, I mean, he's some 70, some 60, some 30. We don't know the capacity we were given. We don't ever know that. What we need to know is that I'm going to go 100% of my capacity, whatever it is. And you can't dictate my capacity based on your own self. I would say associated limitations. Yes. Like you created limitations for you because of whatever's in you, and you want to project that onto me. I don't think likewise, I wouldn't do it to you.
Right. But I find that often happens in communities of color that we are being told these narratives of how much we should do, right? Even to the point where there are barriers that are put up. Now, let me just, because I want to make sure I want to shout these folks out. So there were a few people that when I was doing my history lessons on Black History Month, that I just thought they were not only really dope in terms of the work that they did, but I was like, why didn't I learn about these people? And I know not in school, but just in life. So let's see. Okay, well, first I'm going to talk about this man because I learned about him, which called me to do. I wrote a poem called Black Excellence, and it was really it came from a student who in high school had asked the question, and it was very genuine, and said, "I thought our history started with slavery," and a part of me was not angry at the student, but angry that that was the belief that they truly had, and I instead of saying like, no, that's not true, I needed to take it a step further. And I said, let me show you. And so I went back and started doing some research, and then I wrote a poem about it. And then I started naming all these people. And I remember every time I would do this poem for students. And, initially I started with a bunch of people that they didn't know pre-slavery. And I could see that their ears were like, perked up because they're like, And when I started talking about what they did and who they are, but when I started getting to people that they knew, like Chance the Rapper, Lupita, Denzel Washington, Colin Kaepernick, then they start Beyonce, and it was like, oh! But it was the fact that all the folks prior to that they were like, I'm intrigued though. And so one of those was King Mansa Musa the first. Heard of him? One interesting fact is he's widely considered one of the wealthiest individuals in history, right? People don't think that we can do that. But his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 dramatically showed the vast riches of Mali, West Africa's greatest centers of learning. And you know what I thought was so interesting when I figured this out? It was a joke a lot of times when it was brought up. Timbuktu. Do you remember people joking to be like, you better stop it before I slap you all the way back to Timbuktu?
Yeah.
Not realizing that's an actual university. What, like, the center of like learning, like the first school was created by Black people. And to think that all these years, a lot of the things that we've been told is not true or may have been put in jokes is actually part of our history. So when you hear that, or when you think of people like that, how does that help you like formulate your mindset in terms of the work you do, but even like down to like your daughter and helping her understand like how valuable you are in the heritage and how rich it is, so that when you face adversity, you understand the strength that comes within you through you.
I mean, I think you kind of answered it. And so I think the simplest way I could add to it is we have to help. I want to help my daughter. I want to help young people. I want to help myself step out of my own self-absorbed consciousness and into the consciousness of a reality that's bigger than me. And that in order to do that, I have to go backwards and get deeper into my knowledge of who I was made to be. That starts at God, but it comes through history. And then it even stops at the parents. And then it comes through me as a result of the parents that created me. And so part of it is really like, we are too self-absorbed, which means that we can't connect to things that are greater than us. And I want to help her be less self-absorbed. I want to be less self-absorbed so I can see that who I am is just a significant part of this world, but it's not about me and my own self. It is about all of the things that have made me possible. And that's the truest work. And that's why we can never stop learning, because there's so much to learn to see your identity, but not just about you personally identity, but the collective identity that you are a part of.
Yes. I love that. So let me give you one more I thought was interesting on here. Dr. Yvette Bonny. Heard of her?
No.
She is a Haitian-Canadian pediatrician and pioneering hematologist who performed the first pediatric bone marrow transplant in Quebec and made significant contributions to medicine and education. So that's life-saving. Right. So when we think, and that's not even here.
No.
Right? Haitian-Canadian.
In Quebec.
So when I think about all of these things, there's another person, Francis Kofi Alote. He is a Ghanaian physicist whose work advanced quantum physics with applications in space science and materials research. His legacy highlights the global significant progress thrives on inclusion, proving that groundbreaking innovation comes from diverse minds around the world. Quantum physics. No, first of all, I don't even like physics. Quantum physics. Whenever people because I've been in education for so long, and as I get older, and I hear from students about what they're learning, or even I think about my nephew, and I'll just be like, there's so much that we just don't know. And just to know, like, people can have all of these different focuses and be so passionate about it and go so deep that they like discover something that humankind has really never known before, even though there's nothing new under the sun. But God reveals, as we deal, in the fact that you get a piece of, history that you can say that, hey, I helped reveal this to the world. And to say that I get to do it in like somebody that looks like me. Yeah. That is so powerful. It is powerful. And so, as I think about this, as we wrap up, there's so many questions. Like I said, I feel like we're gonna end up having multiple parts. But one, what is one thing that you want people to take away, not just from Black History Month, because I love what you said, that the resistance is sometimes is that you do and don't want to celebrate Black History Month because you're like, it's just 28 days. We do so much more than 28 days. But yet it is an opportunity for you to capitalize on, to say, like, look, I'm going to be Black. If you got a problem with it, you better wait till March. Yeah. So how do you...
That's great. 2 days. You know
what I'm saying? Like, what would you say to someone who may be struggling with why Black history should be celebrated, why it's significant, and then what do you say to someone who does celebrate it and how to continue the legacy?
Yeah. I'll go back to a point I just made around stepping outside yourself a little bit. If you step outside yourself, you see the value of things beyond you. And if you're struggling to celebrate it, it's likely because you have some type of selfish emotion about it, some judgment about it. And if you step outside yourself, you'll realize that it is truly an opportunity to lift up, to connect to, and to reinforce a lived experience of folks beyond you, before you, and currently doing the work that needs to be celebrated in this moment. And this is an opportunity to celebrate in this moment. And for anyone who is doing that celebration but wants to do more, I think I would say to them, connect to the purpose and identity within yourself to the extent that you can. So that every time you do make moves, you are moving with that energy in mind from those before you, and you are creating new history every day you exist. Because sometimes, like, always thinking about the history, we can get stuck. And always thinking about the present, we can miss the opportunity to think about the past. And always thinking about the future, we can miss the present. Right, it's complex. Twisting. And I think one of the things that we need to do a better job of as people is to settle into our purpose and our identity, and to allow that to be part of the significance of every moment we live, so that we are creating something every time we do something. And for me, that's lived history, while also appreciating what was true, and then hopefully what we are doing today creates a future that's better. But ultimately, it's because we were authentically who we are now. And I would say that the people you're talking about were able to identify purpose, identify their gifting, and go really hard at that because of what came before them. And we got to do the same work. And we may not be known in the same way, but we will be significant to somebody.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Significant to somebody. And I just want y'all to know, y'all are significant to me. Y'all are significant, I would also say, to God. Shout out to Herbal Intellect. What's up, Paul? I see you. Windy City. For Black History Month, I'm learning how Black people were in America 1,000 years before Christopher Columbus found America. Come through. What's up, Yamika Anderson? Hey, what's up, cuz? Okay, I saw you, Scooby. Yo. Yes, these are good, y'all. So look, this is one of the things that I want to say to y'all as we go. I said something in a video. So I wrote a poem this year, inspired by Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, and it's called What is a Dream? And one of the things that I really enjoyed about it was I had to ask myself the question, what is a dream? Because people have different ideas of a dream, the definition of a dream. But understanding that if you don't dream, then you cannot have a purpose. Because part of your purpose is first envisioning, like seeing it before you see it. And even this year, some of the things, going back to my husband, a shout out to him, 2 years ago is literally when he asked me, he said, if you could do anything, what would it be? And I said to him, I said, I want to get paid well to speak for a living with my business, Inspired on Purpose, to inspire people to help them discover their purpose. And he said, remember this conversation. And when this opportunity came up yesterday, I almost cried because I was like, wow, God, that dream, it was a dream, but it wasn't so far off that I couldn't touch it. But there were things that had to happen leading up to it, even with adversity, even with struggles, even, with highs and lows. But I also thought back about all the people before me that I was aware of. And then when I started doing research on more people, Black history figures around the globe, and thinking about the things that they had to endure to get the type of liberation that they got. And I thought, I'm just a part of that cloud of many witnesses. I'm just a part of, one day I'll be an ancestor.
Right.
But the fact that I get to walk in the shoes of my ancestors and I can be my ancestors' wildest dreams right now, man, I got to keep pushing even when it's hard. Because one day, I'm a dot on a line of eternity. But one day somebody may look back at that dot to say, I am because we are.
Right.
So.
Indeed. Amen.
Amen. How can people get in touch with you?
Dr. Karlin J is all social media handles. That's the easiest way to do that.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. All right, y'all. Again, shout out to all my people that came on here. Thank you for joining. You can, again, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Inspired on Purpose. Also want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. Want to give a shout out to Herbal Intellect, to Idle Droid Museum, to Leo's Alkaline Water, Speak On It Media, Spoken Word Elevated. And if you are interested in being a sponsor to continue to help us to have healing conversations, because not only do we do things here, but I also want to give out a shout out to our previous Black History Month series special guest that we're talking about this topic on healing beautiful Black minds, and that is Dr. Corey Reed. And none other than the beautiful Erica Alexander, a.k.a. Maxine Shaw, Ride the Maverick of Living Single, a.k.a. Cousin Pam off of The Cosby Show. Yeah. So thank y'all for being Black History. Thank you for being Black History.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Peace.
Thanks for watching. Did you enjoy the Therapy Thursdays with Therapy on the Mic with radio and podcast host, therapist Patrice Stokes? Well then, subscribe to the Inspired on Purpose YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you'll know when new inspirational content is posted just for you. Leave a comment below. Share this with someone today to inspire them with purpose.